Some seats have already overheated. We've seen coaches fired already. Scott Frost is out. Herm Edwards is out. It's not over. There are several more coming, and I'm going to talk about the latest I've heard. There's a lot of rumor out there that probably is unsubstantiated. I'll give you what I've heard so far and the timetables, I think, on some of these. Now, there's a lot of arguing this time of year when a coach has already been fired, and I think it's valid. If a coach has already been fired and it's not even October yet, why was he given the opportunity to even start the season? Each circumstance is unique, but on the whole, I get that argument, but that's in the past now for the guys who have already been shown the door. I think there's some more coming. So, for instance, this first situation, obviously pretty unique. Brian Harsin and Auburn, I don't need to go back into the whole off-the-field drama in February and March, but there was a concerted effort behind the scenes to oust him. It failed, and he started the season as the head coach at Auburn. It has not gone well. It will not continue to go well because they don't have a quarterback. So, they're going to get pushed around. They're going to lose several more games. It's a virtual certainty. Protocols were in place this past spring and summer for them to go 7-5 or 8-4 if the losses were competitive. And I've spoken to you about that. I thought he made a brilliant tactical move to get himself out in front of people more because he didn't do it enough and endeared himself to people. And what I thought that was doing was, in the aggregate, it was building up some equity to where if they lost some games like they lost against Bama last year, really competitive, I think he was going to be able to survive 7-5 or 8-4. There is no protocol for the disaster they just suffered last week. And I kid you not, it was so clear that things shifted pretty radically during the game. And I talked to a couple of people who said that. I didn't need to talk to anyone. You didn't need to talk to anyone. For that matter, you were watching it at home, or if you were in the stadium, God bless you if you stuck it out until the end. But most of you did not. So most of you were already on your way home by the time the final gun sounded. There is something happening behind the scenes at Auburn right now. And it's the usual. It's not unique to Auburn. But behind the scenes at Auburn, as you would probably suspect, there are some in the booster class who are saying, I told you so, because they didn't want Harsin. They never did. They reiterated that hardcore back in the winter and tried to get him out of there. It didn't work. And so, obviously, since things haven't panned out, there's the attitude amongst some Auburn boosters of, told you so. And the told you so is pretty insulting because it insinuates that there were only two options. Either you bring Harsin in or you let us do it our way. And if you let us do it our way, it just would have worked out. I need to remind you, their way was hiring Kevin Steele. I'm not a prophet. I can't tell you if it would have worked out or not. I have my suspicions. But let's leave those to the side for just a second. Might I suggest to you that just because Brian Harsin has not worked out as head coach at Auburn doesn't mean your way was right to begin with. The Auburn way, according to some, is to basically do things in the most backward manner possible and make the people who should be the decision makers the last to know, and we'll take care of it, and we'll pass it off to you so you can put your stamp of approval on it. Who's the AD there right now? Don't even have one. They don't think they need one because that AD should not really be the decision maker. It should be us over here. No, there's this third way of doing it. I know this is a pretty radical concept to present to some of the powers that be at Auburn. There's a third way of doing things. And it's the same way that every other successful program does it. There's no unique way you have to do it at Auburn. It's a myth for people to think that way. The third way is go in this order, get yourself a really good athletic director, hire him, let him acclimate, let him do his own assessment of the program. He'll arrive at the right conclusion, which is it's time to move on from Brian Harsin. He's not my guy. I didn't hire him. The results aren't good enough. That'll be clear. Then you let him do what he was hired to do, and you stay out of the way. You go run your lumber company. You go run your bank. You go do what you're supposed to do because that's how you made your fortune. You didn't make your fortune running a football program. You get access to the program because you have a fortune, but that's not how you amassed your fortune. That's how I would suggest Auburn go about it. My opinion is irrelevant, and most opinions that sound like that have been irrelevant there for a little while. But the fact remains, the days are numbered for Brian Harsin. They got Missouri Saturday. Okay, here's what I don't know. They got Missouri Saturday. I don't know if him losing Saturday would all of a sudden pull the lever. Truthfully, I don't even know who would pull the lever. because they have an interim situation at AD right now. So I don't even know how that would happen. I just know that it doesn't get easier. Missouri is followed by LSU, Georgia, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Mississippi State, A&M, Western Kentucky, and Alabama. That sounds like a joke. It's not. That's really Auburn's schedule. So, yeah, it's not a matter of if, probably a matter of when there. Speaking of when and not if, Jeff Collins is done at Georgia Tech. They've been outscored 83-10 versus FBS opponents so far this year. The program was on life support when they entered this season. He made some moves on the coaching staff, some by choice, some by necessity. Nothing's worked. So there've been whispers of some action behind the scenes in Atlanta this week. A lot of that's true. And that can mean many different things. Sometimes that means that the administration's trying to get their ducks in a row. Sometimes it means they're negotiating a reduced buyout. Would not surprise me, but I can't confirm that. It would not surprise me if that's happening. I still believe, in my heart of hearts, this is one of the most underrated jobs in major college football. I thought Jeff Collins would work out there. It has not worked out. You see the records there, 3, 6, 9. He's got 10 wins total since 2019. So in his entire time there, 19, 20, 21, and the beginning of 22, he has won 10 combined games. So it didn't work. I believe it can work. You are going to hear the name Deion Sanders. There are people associated with that program who fully believe in that concept. They believe in bringing Deion in and letting him do at Georgia Tech what Pittman's done at Arkansas. And to be clear, what that means is hire an incredible staff. That's why it's working out for Sam Pittman at Arkansas. And if you don't believe me, listen to him. Last time we had him on the show, that's what he sat there and said. I got the best staff in the country. That's why we win. I mean, it's not me. I've got the best staff in the country. Now, he's a little humble there because it is due in large part to him. But there's going to be some talk of Deion Sanders being a head coaching option at Georgia Tech. And I know a lot of you, because it just sounds so bristly on the surface, it just comes so far out of left field, your default is to say, no way. There is a way. There is a way. I'm not telling you I know it'd work. I haven't even done research on it or anything like that, and that doesn't matter anyway. There are going to be people who want the antithesis of what they just experienced under Collins. And so Deion Sanders is pretty much the antithesis on the surface of every other situation in major college football right now. That doesn't mean it won't work, though. That there have been a lot of hires over the past few years that got laughed at. I go back to Pittman at Arkansas for just a second. Did any of you in your right mind expect them to be where they are right now? No. He blended seamlessly with the culture, and he hired a great staff. If you can do that, there's that third component, which is recruiting. That's the last thing I would ever worry about with Deion Sanders. So we'll see where things go at Georgia Tech. I do not know a timetable there. I think it's going to be pretty soon. They go to Central Florida this week. They're probably going to lose that game. I think action's coming pretty soon there. Neil Brown at West Virginia is one that I don't think is as far down the road as some others think. I talked to someone today who I trust, who was pretty adamant that, hey, thin ice with hot blades. That's what Neil Brown's skating with right now. There are very split opinions here, because my opinion is not that. My opinion is still they can have a decent season this year. It's just they got bit by Kansas at the worst time, and what's rubbed a lot of them very raw at West Virginia is they've seen Lance Leipold come into Kansas and just turn it around immediately, and he's been there far less time than their guy has. And that guy came into our building here in Morgantown and embarrassed us 55-42. So that's tough to swallow. I get that. They've got Virginia Tech this Thursday. They're favored by 1.5 for what that's worth. They got Virginia Tech Thursday. To me, it's as simple as beating Virginia Tech and as hard as beating Virginia Tech. So if they lose this Thursday, I'm not telling you this isn't a very touch-and-go situation. It is. But I'm saying if they were to beat Virginia Tech Thursday, they'd be 2-2. But they, I think, would have the noise turned down considerably, and then they'd go get into conference play or back into conference play. And they would have Texas, Baylor, Texas Tech, TCU. There are going to be a lot of games they'll be a dog in. None of these games they'll be a 3 or 4 touchdown dog in, and they should be able to compete. I still think they've got ingredients to have a pretty good team. I just don't think it's happened yet. What's the theme of tonight's show? What are you capable of that you just haven't shown yet? West Virginia's capable of being a good team this year. It just hasn't become that team yet. Teams click in week 4 all the time. Now, getting week 7, week 8, week 9, maybe not necessarily, but I still think there's a lot of life there. I also owe it to you, because a lot of you have asked about this, I owe it to you to address the Urban Meyer rumors. The Urban Meyer rumors around Nebraska were foolish to me. I don't think and have never thought there's a chance that he's going to be the head coach of Nebraska for 2 reasons. I don't think he wants it, and I don't think Nebraska wants it. So usually that's a formula for a guy not being your head coach. I was listening to T-Bob Hebert talk today, and I think he was probably talking about Nebraska. So if he was talking about Nebraska and how Urban Meyer's not the right guy for Nebraska, okay, I'll grant you that. But in general, I think he's going to coach again. This flies in the face of what people close to him have told me. It flies in the face of what Pete Thamel reported today. I am telling you I disagree with them and have not spoken to Urban Meyer once about it. I am just putting 2 and 2 together. I don't think he's done coaching. But I don't think he's coaching next year. I don't think he needs to coach next year. I don't think he wants to coach next year. I think a couple of things are true. Right now, when he tells people, I'm not getting back into coaching, I think he fully believes it. I also think I'm right in that his attitude will change one day, and because he's 58 years old mainly, and it ended very, very poorly in Jacksonville. I don't think we need to recap that. So, yeah, I think he's got another run in him. But I don't think it's at a place like Nebraska. I mean, his last 2 stops, Florida, Ohio State, those were not Nebraska stops. Those were not build it from the ground up. Those were, let's take the keys, the thing's already put together, we need to make a few changes here, new hubcap, there's a dent in the door over here, but this thing will run already. That's not what Nebraska is, and that's not where Urban Meyer belongs. But there's going to be a program down the road that's already a proven powerhouse, and it just needs a little repair, and that's the seat he'll hop into one day. But in the meantime, as for Nebraska, there are going to be some good candidates out here, and there are going to be some available candidates. Like, it's the right time. I know it's never the right time to be in the situation they're in. I think it's the right time if you're going to have a coaching opening, because you got these guys in the Sun Belt doing what they're doing. You got guys like Leopold at Kansas doing what he's doing. Elko's doing what he's doing at Duke. There are a lot of places that are Tier 4 type programs with guys doing really big things and proving that they know how to do what you need done at Nebraska. You're not having to go poach from the same level or a level up and hoping to outspend someone. You may take that track, but Trev Alberts has talked about character. He's talked about a builder. He's right in talking about those things. I think there's going to be multiple right candidates to choose from for Nebraska. They just got to get it right. Got to take your time, get it right. I think he's out there. I think in reality, there's that adage that there's one person out there in the world that's meant for you. I've always thought that was laughable. I think statistically there are probably like 300,000 people out there that you're compatible with. Don't check me on that number. I think there are multiple compatible candidates that are going to be in the hiring pool for Nebraska. They just got to go, not find the right one, find a right one, because it'll work out. Nebraska can still be a winner. You know my feelings on that. Nebraska can still be a winner. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Make sure you like the video and please subscribe to the channel. Not just for me. That's how we keep this entire thing free.